NXT and TNA crossed the line together, albeit TNA crossed enemy lines over to NXT for Showdown in what was a showdown of two fantastic brands of wrestling. And that was live on the CW, it was live on Netflix over in the UK, and it produced an incredible event that has left us wondering what is next for both brands. What is NXT for both brands on this? And look, let's pull no punches. Let's get right into Showdown with the not the unification, title versus title tag team match. The Hardys, Dark State, Dudley Boys at ringside to watch as, of course, they take on the Hardys this Sunday at Bound for Glory. And in what I would class as a traditional Hardy Boys style match, the usual jump start in there, Hardy's gaining control. Jeff takes the beating like always, hits that hot tag to Matt. They bundle it around a little bit. But the bottom line coming out of this match is TNA finally win a bit of NXT gold, and it's the tag team championships from NXT that Matt and Jeff, the Hardy Boys, win. It's the only title in the WWE from a tag team perspective, anyway, that has eluded them throughout their careers until now, as they are both NXT and TNA tag team championships. But what implications does that have going into Bound for Glory? Does Matt and Jeff defend the TNA? Well, the TNA tag team championships are being defended at Bound for Glory. There's no argument there. But does the NXT championships get defended as well against Bubba Ray and Devon? One last table, a tables match at Bound for Glory. But congratulations to Matt and Jeff Hardy for picking up the victory in this match and thus becoming NXT and TNA Tag Team Championships and NXT Championship for the first time for Matt and Jeff Hardy. There was another, there was another TNA guy going for an NXT championship, and that was Mustafa Ali, and he was going one-on-one in this with the North American champion, Ethan Page. And I'm telling you now, if you didn't know about these two, you're absolutely going to. They tore the house down in a tremendous one-on-one encounter. Ali coming out of Order 4 and get his own entrance thing. Coming out of Order 4 this coming weekend, of course, he's in hardcore war against the system, but he wanted NXT gold in a match that actually, funnily enough, come full circle for him. He was meant to have a North American Championship match when he was released by the WWE. Now he gets an opportunity to win it back for NXT. Unfortunately for Ali, it didn't materialize, and he did not manage to win the North American Championship from Ethan Page. But what I can say is that match, there were some spots in this, and the ending of this, the sequence of the ending of this was really interesting. Ali got pushed off the top. He had his leg caught in Booker T's headset wire, which I thought was quite uniquely done. And that ultimately came to the end of the match with Ethan Page picking up the victory and retaining the North American Championship. So even in this match, you had TNA, NXT, and technically a bit of AEW in there with Ethan Page as well, right? A former AEW star, Ethan Page. And tremendous outing. You've got to give it to Ali in this. He put his heart and soul into it. I think everybody really stepped up their game at the show. It really felt like brand warfare. We used to see that at, Raw and SmackDown Survivor Series and shows, and they used to go on each other's show the days before and get into it. And this felt like it. The TNA come into this, I think, feeling like this was their moment. This was their time to shine. Their system had kind of been shocked a little bit by TNA, by NXT, sorry. It won't be the first time I make that mistake during this show. Yeah, it felt like their system had been shocked a little bit by NXT winning both Knockouts Championship and TNA World Championship. Knockouts Championship is still kind of with NXT. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. Clan James, not quite sure uh, what side of the fence she's on. She was on Team TNA. We'll get into that in a minute, but they felt like they come in here. They had their system shot. They lost their championships. Still technically lost their championships, although Ash did win it back, had to relinquish, as we know, the Knockouts Championship due to injury. But with that being said, they delivered a sensational match. Ali and Ethan Page. One that you have to go and watch to really respect what those guys done in that ring because it was a tremendous outing for both Ethan and Mustafa Ali. Ethan Page has got all the tools of being a superstar in WWE. It's just whether he's going to get that opportunity to do so. And while we're on to WWE briefly, I know this isn't NXT or TNA. Santos Escobar has apparently left WWE. His contract was up at midnight on Monday. And as far as the news reports go, he didn't re-sign. It wasn't a financial thing. It was more about creative and about his character, which is fair. Lots of rumors to say that he was going to debut on AEW. He didn't. Dynamite would have been an interesting one. It'd been like the old Lex Luger days. He wrestled at a pay-per-view one day and showed up on Nitro on the next, but it didn't happen. But a bit on that quickly. I don't know, because like he would just be another wheel in the cog for me on AEW. TNA's in it, and I'm not just saying that because I love TNA, and we had a great interview with the hometown man who's getting ready for Bound for Glory in his hometown this coming weekend. But I feel as if like when you look at it, WWE roster stacked. He does fit the mold of what an AEW guy, what you look for in an AEW wrestler. He's got that excitement, there's that speed. People can call it an indie style base. I just say it's like an exciting way of wrestling. He's got that about him. So he is technically in that way, but then I look at the X division and I just think Leon Slater, Santos Escobar, could be Jevon Evans yet, to be honest. That's something. But I look at that and I just think he's tailor-made for the X division in TNA. I just think right now AEW is, as I said, he would just be another cog in the wheel. Would he go there and do anything special? And I look at the signings that they've recently made, the Josh Alexanders, the Ace Austins, and they haven't really done anything. So it could be right time for Santos to chip down to TNA and be a king of the X division and take on Leon Slater with what would be a great match. But look, that's a story outside of NXT and TNA. Women's NXT, Jordan Grace, women's NXT versus TNA match, Jordan Grace refereeing it. The Iconics or the inspiration coming out to the Iconics theme was a great touch for these. I think they killed it. I think this match was great. I loved it. I was always going to wonder in this because obviously it's one on one with I was like Fandango. It's like one on one between NXT and TNA at this point, and I was always thinking, I'd always thought that one would win one and one would win the other. It would make sense for them to do that, and it was just kind of thinking which way they were going to go with it, and having Jordan Grace and Joe Hendry as referees added a bit of an element to this because everyone was saying, oh, they're going to turn on this one. They're going to turn on that one. And you did kind of wonder whether that was going to happen and if it was going to happen in the women's, who would Jordan side for. Lots of people were saying that Joe Hendry is going to side for WWE in the men's one. So it was quite interesting when it come out. But essentially, in this one, Jordan Grace did not turn her back on anybody in this. But the match itself was won by Team NXT. It was a great match. JC James stealing it, shall we say? Sol Roker with her. Oh, she is a word. Sol Roker. We just talk to her for a minute. She is unreal. Again, you have to look at this from, you can sense a call up is coming for Sol Ruka, but you have to wonder again with the WWE and notoriously calling these guys and girls up, it doesn't work. We've seen, for whatever reason, it just doesn't materialize. I thought it was a Vince thing, but the guy that made NXT what it was, Triple H, doesn't know what to do with them. We've seen it. So Ruka's a star. She's got everything. She's great physique, great look. She's great in the ring. She's got so much going for her. But would she work in WWE? Would she work on the main roster? I guess we're going to find out. However, it was said her and JC Jane really stole the show for this, and Team NXT picks up the victory to go 2-1 ahead of the men's NXT. These matches weren't in order, by the way. The women's one kicked off the show. No, sorry, the Hardy Boys kicked off the show. The women's one was second. I'm putting it in an order that I wanted to put it in, just in case anyone starts going, "Oh, that didn't happen." I know, doing it my way. That was a really great match. Anyway, we move along to the men's, and this was the one. To be honest, I thought that NXT's men's were going to win. That's where I was kind of my thing was that I thought they were going to kind of give the women the knockouts, the victory, and move on to the men's and give it to NXT. And Joe Hendry being the ref again, lots of people were saying Joe Hendry's going to cost Team TNA. Joe Hendry's going to cost it because Joe Hendry's kind of, I think, transitioning away from TNA. I mean, he's not even got a match at Bound for Glory. He's got a match this coming Friday, or this Thursday, sorry, tomorrow night on TNA against Eric Young in a no DQ. But he hasn't got a match at Bound for Glory. So with that being said, and I think the contract situation was he was contracted until the end of this year for TNA. I think. Don't get me wrong. I'm not. I don't know that factually. So there's a lot of things that is already kind of transitioning into NXT. He's been on NXT nearly every week for the last little while. The the interesting thing I would say about Joe Hendry is whether or not the WWE take him seriously enough to put him in a position of, let's say, power, but you look at it, he has got that. There is that character side of Joe Hendry to say his name and he appears and everything like that, got over in TNA. He's been doing it for years on the UK independents, a bit like Finn Balor. When Finn Balor was going through the independents over here in the UK, he was dressing up in so many different types of outfits. I think he was the guy from Silence of the Lambs. He come out to he done so many sort of bits and pieces with makeup. And he's never really in the WWE, he done the demon thing for a while, but that's gone away. But Finn had the wrestling side of it. And I'm not saying Joe Hendry doesn't have the wrestling side of it, but I would say the predominant feature of Joe Hendry is the character over the in ring. So when Joe does probably transition fully into WWE, is he going to be just another, without being disrespectful, just another R-Truth? Is he going to be WWE's version of Danhausen? For argument's sake, I know there's interest in Danhausen from WWE actually, but um, so the question remains with Joe Hendry: are they going to take him seriously, like TNA has done? And to be fair, that took time. That was 12, 18 months, ago that this whole bandwagon started for Joe Hendry. Other than that, he wasn't really there. It got the iTunes thing kicked off, and that's how all of a sudden everyone knows about Joe Hendry. WWE's eyes probably have moved on to Joe Hendry. Like, what's he doing here? What's going on? Kind of thing. So, um, and you look at Joe Hendry and lots of stuff that he does is like The Rock. The Rock does a sing along with The Rock, and we done the Rock concerts and so on and so forth. So it's going to be interesting to see where they position Joe Hendry in the WWE, and that's a concern. But anyway, back to the match. I know I've gone off about Joe Hendry, but anyway, he called it down the middle. Joe Hendry did call it down the middle. Slightly slower count than Jordan Grace on the pinfalls, I would say. But of course, we was all expecting some form of turn. As I said, Joe Hendry was the one everyone was expecting, or someone to kind of cost their team the match, and it absolutely did happen. But it was the TNA champion Trick Williams that cost Team NXT the match. He walked away from the match in there, leaving Ricky Saints on his own. To remember, Ricky Saints again, AEW, a lot bit of AEW influence in there as well. Ricky Saints done well. He was kind of like the Nick Nemeth, the Shawn Michaels. He was left alone with the majority of team TNA, and he fought them all down, and it got to a point where you thought he was going to win. However, the team of the kind of a bit of a weird team in here, Moose, who did hit Santana intentionally, unintentionally, sorry, with a spear or intentionally, I can't remember what, with a spear during this match, which I kind of thought, oh, is this going to be is Moose or is Santana going to cost one? They didn't. Santana brushed it off, spanned the block, no pun intended, and they absolutely demolished Ricky Saints, and he got and actually Santana got the victory against the NXT champion Ricky Saints, and it was quite an interesting, you know, way of Santana's going to Bound for Glory this Sunday. All eyes expecting on him to win the TNA Heavyweight Championship, and he's just pinned the NXT champion Ricky Saints. Again, great showing for Ricky Saints. Great showing for Jevon Evans, Leon Slater. Not so much Miles Bourne though. He kind of, and he's one of, and NXT has kind of been. We're kind of getting to see is a disability, is a character with a disability, a legitimate disability, and we're getting to see that. And people are kind of caring about him, and that's what you should be doing. But he was kind of eliminated quite quickly from this. But Team TNA wins it and levels it at 2 apiece. I can't see this being over at 2-2. Now, interestingly enough, they cut to the back at the end of this, and Ava and Santino were there and they shook hands, and Ava sort of said, oh, actually, next week we've got a battle royal to determine a #1 contender for the NXT Women's Championship. And I'd like to extend the offer to the TNA Knockouts. But I'm going a bit one further now. I know we've got Hardcore War coming up this weekend at Bound for Glory. But I'm thinking that Mr. Regal makes an appearance soon and does War Games, and we get NXT TNA and maybe a War Games to settle it once and for all. But a tremendous showdown, nevertheless. One I really, really enjoyed. 2-2 going into Bound for Glory this coming Sunday, folks. Now, UK and Ireland fans, there is a new VIP tier of TNA Plus, where for $9.99 a month or for $99.99 a year, you can unlock the lot. Impact, PLEs, the old Impact, the old PLEs. You can watch AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Kazarian, Beer Money, and so much more. And you can watch the Leon Slaters, the RLEs, the Order Force, the Systems, the Joe Hendrys, why he's still there, week after week on Impact for £9.99. The cost of 2 cups of large coffee, maybe even less. You get to watch that monthly on $9.99. Get it downloaded, get subscribed. UK and Ireland fans, take advantage of that offer. It will not be around forever. Get it before Bound for Glory. What a time to get it. It's going to be the biggest Bound for Glory of TNA history this coming Sunday. We're going to look very much forward to reviewing it on Monday. Jesus, along with Exodus. Fuck. There's lots going on this weekend in the world of wrestling. We've got Crown Jewel in Perth this coming Saturday afternoon. Oh, the gods. I get to review that with you guys Saturday evening, so I'm looking forward to that. TNA Impact is coming out on Friday, so get with me for that as well. What else? We got AEW, myself and Jordan in the booth. Maybe but NWA Power is going to come up as well. We've got so much coming up on the show in these next few days. I don't know when I'm going to sleep, guys. But download TNA Plus. Get it ready for this coming Sunday. And what a show NXT and TNA put on. But for everybody here at the channel, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.